Hello YouTube, we are back with the Styleline. Got to do a little more maintenance on this thing today. Water pump has, the bushing has gone out on me, causing the fan to wobble and create quite the noise, and I don't want that fan taking off and being an airplane on me. But I will start this up, see if you can hear the noise that it's making. So if your car is making this sound too, definitely check the water pump bushing bearing right where the fan pulley is bolted onto it. So my water pump is working fine, the engine cools just fine, but it is making quite the noise, and that fan is going to separate fairly soon. Not sure if you can hear it, but there's that metallic rattling going on in there, and that is certainly the fan just wobbling around. So today I'm going to change the water pump on this and hopefully get rid of that and improve everything. Okay, here we are in the engine compartment, and this is what I'm talking about right here. I don't know how well you can see it, but this fan is certainly, you can see that pulley wobbling a little bit. It's hard to tell in the video. Maybe once the belt's off it'll be easier to see, but that pulley is definitely wobbling and it is creating quite the noise. So let's see what we got to do and start getting this thing replaced. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is just go ahead and loosen up this alternator to get this belt off of here. And for anyone who may not remember or may not know, when I switched this over to the 12-volt alternator from the generator, I put the generator pulley back on this alternator. I just used a spacer underneath the pulley so the fan didn't hit the body of the alternator there. And I went ahead and used a 5/8 belt from an air compressor that I bought the belt down at Ace Hardware just off an air compressor belt, as the 5/8 belt for this car was extremely expensive, I found out, and the air compressor belt works just fine. So we're going to loosen up the alternator and get the belt off of here. Once the belt's off, then we're going to have to drain the coolant out of the engine, at least drain it down below that water pump level, drain the radiator out, whichever, pull the lower radiator hose. Just to get this coolant level out of there. It could probably use a good flush anyway. And once that's done, we'll come over here and we'll go ahead and take off the heater hose here. That could some thermostat, so about that. But we got the heater hose here. We'll pull that off, as well as the lower radiator hose that ties into the water pump. And once those are off, this thing should be pretty straightforward to come off. There is also the 4 bolts here that hold the fan onto the pulley, which I'll probably go ahead and pull those off too. That way I'm not trying to pull it off all together and end up dinging up the radiator. So let's get started. Okay, we're in here. We got the belt off, got the fan off. Hard to tell in the video, I'm sure, but that's got definitely some play in it. The fan makes it worse. Got the heater hose line off, as well as the lower radiator hose line. So now we are ready to take this off. We've got a couple bolts on the driver's side and on the bottom here, and then on the passenger. And this thing will be off. We'll be ready to replace it and see what it really looks like. This is the original water pump on this 52 car, so after this many years, it's put up a good life, and I got no problem changing it out. I got no complaints whatsoever. So let's go ahead and finish getting this thing off. Okay, we got the old water pump off now, and we got the brand new one here. And the old one actually, inside, it doesn't look too crustied up for being original, but it's time for it to get replaced. Even got the nice GM part number on there. But the new one, I was able to pick up, I know these are usually pretty expensive, but I found a closeout on Rock Auto, and I got a Cardone new water pump, not rebuilt or whatever, but here's your part number, 5511512 for the water pump. And it comes with the gasket and the little plug, and so it comes with what you need. Typical water pump. But the nice thing about this is this pulley now is, it looks like a one-piece machined pulley in place of the stamped steel one, which, the stamped steel one lasted long enough, so I'm sure it was fine. But this is just nice and heavy duty. I mean, everything looks really nice and feels good, nice and quiet, no wobbles. So I'm excited to get this on and get that noise gotten rid of. Get some new coolant in this thing. Alright, keep going here. One of the most important things you want to look for and take notice on any job like this, water pump, valve cover, whatever it is, anywhere there's a gasket, you need to make sure that gasket surface is nice and clean. And so I'm back again, got my razor blade on a stick, because everything's better on a stick, right? Got my green scratch pad and my rubbing alcohol. Still one of the best tricks my dad ever taught me of cleaning something up, get it oil free, ready for a new surface. So I'm going to take this my razor blade and scrape the whole area around there to make sure no dirt and contaminants are in there. Take some paper towels and wipe out them water passages so the coolant doesn't leak out of the engine while I'm trying to set my gasket in place and create an issue there. Heck, I may even just take some air out of the front tires and have the front of the car drop down and, just to drain that much more out of the block so I don't have to worry about it. But get this cleaned up and this new water pump's ready to go on. I'm excited. Okay, we've went ahead and flattened the tires on this and drained some more coolant out of the front of the engine, scraped the area off for the water pump for the gasket to be replaced. So now I'm ready to put some air back in here and go ahead and lift it back up, and hopefully no more coolant will run out of that head. So when we're putting the gasket on there, we won't have any issues. Water pump is ready to go back on now. I've scraped and cleaned and did the rubbing alcohol wipe on the surface area of the block there. I've also taken all my bolts and ran them on the wire wheel just to clean up the threads. And, I mean, that's a good idea to do whether you got a wire wheel bench grinder or just a wire brush or anything. I took a tap, just a 3/8/16 tap, ran through all the holes to make sure everything goes in smooth. On the new water pump, wiped down this surface also where the gasket's going to go, as well as ran a tap through the fan, where the fan holes, to make sure those were going to go on good. I'd hate to have a problem when I'm stuffed in there between the fan and the radiator and can't get a bolt to go on. There's a product I normally like to use. It's called High Tack, and I would paint both sides of the gasket and stick it on there. Well, I'm out of High Tack, so I'm just going to slip the bolts through this to hold the gasket in place and put this on. Oh man, does cleaning those holes out make it nice and easy to put bolts in when you're working blind. Oops, and I almost forgot. One important thing you don't want to forget is when you have an alternator bracket, that bracket ties into this water pump bolt. Don't tighten everything down and then have to undo it again. Get your bolt through the whole thing first. Save you a step and some frustration later. Okay, I went ahead and left this bolt a little bit loose. That way it's got some movement for the alternator when I put the belt back on. After the belt's on, I'll tighten that up to nice and tight, or as I was always told a long time ago, tighten it to German specs, good and tight. That's about how I do stuff, good and tight. Now, I just want anybody to know, I'm not putting offense out there to any German culture or anything. I think German products are great. I've had several myself. I'm not knocking their manufacturing or anything. I just thought it was kind of a funny term when I heard it. But as a matter of fact, the wife and I were taking 3 weeks and going to Germany next September. We met a really nice family we want to connect with, and we're super excited to go. So anyway, on the car, all the bolts are tightened back up. The top alternator bolt bracket is tight, and I'm ready to put the fan on. But now is a great time to go ahead and inspect your fan, because I've read, being these are just spot welded together, these two separate blades, that they can crack. And the welds can crack and the blades can crack. So now is a perfect time to go ahead and inspect your fan for any cracks to see if it needs to be replaced, so you don't have a safety issue on down the road. This one's in great shape, so I'm ready to put it back on. Okay. Tapping those holes out on the water pump pulley sure does make a difference when you're dealing with that small of an area. Just sticking your hand in there, kind of hoping for the best. So, highly recommend it as you're doing this. So now, let's just get the final tightening on here. And should be about done, besides filling it back up with coolant. If anybody's interested, the belt that I did use, it's a 5L 440. So it's a 5/8 width, and I believe it's 44 inches long.
That?
Yes.
So you see that bottom one down there?
Mm-hmm.
How there's all those crumbs on that? Will you have to get those out of there?
No, it'll be fine. It'll fly right out. Okay, here's the moment of truth. Was that noise really coming from the fan? I believe it was. But if not, heck, I got a brand new water pump on this now, so I'm excited. Time to start it up. Well, it was definitely the water pump making that noise, and I am happy. Now I can drive my car again, because it was getting pretty leery there for a bit. Last thing I want to do is that fan to come flying off somewhere through the hood or kill somebody. So there we have it. Another successful project on the Styleline. And remember, drive your cars and enjoy your cars. God bless ya.